Today on Bench Briefs, we're looking at R.V. Hussein, a 2026 Supreme Court of Canada decision that tackles important questions about criminal procedure, evidence, and constitutional rights. This case reminds us just how carefully courts must balance fair trial rights with the need to uphold the rule of law. At the heart of this case is the accused, Hussein, who faced multiple criminal charges. While the specific details of the alleged offenses aren't the focus here, what really matters is the legal journey these charges sparked, starting from the initial trial and moving all the way up to the Supreme Court. Along the way, key issues about how evidence was handled, whether the jury was properly instructed, and how constitutional protections apply in criminal cases came sharply into focus. So, what happened here? Hussein was charged with a series of criminal offenses, and during the trial, the prosecution presented evidence they believed would prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. However, Hussein's defense challenged both the admissibility and sufficiency of that evidence, arguing that some of it should not have been allowed at trial or was simply not strong enough to support a conviction. The trial judge gave instructions to the jury on how to consider the evidence and the law, but Hussein's legal team raised concerns that these instructions might have been flawed or incomplete in ways that could have misled the jury. This is a critical point because jury instructions guide how jurors apply the law to the facts, and any errors here can seriously impact the fairness of a trial. Beyond these procedural questions, the case also raised constitutional issues under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Hussein argued that certain actions during the investigation or trial infringed on his charter rights, which protect individuals from unfair treatment by the state. The Supreme Court had to carefully consider whether any such violations occurred and, if so, whether they affected the overall fairness of the trial. The Supreme Court's role was to review all these complex issues. They looked closely at the evidence presented and asked whether it was properly admitted and sufficient to support the charges. They examined the trial judge's instructions to make sure jurors were given clear and accurate guidance. And they analyzed the constitutional claims to ensure that Hussein's rights were respected throughout the process. Why does this case matter? First, it underscores the importance of rigorous standards when it comes to evidence in criminal trials. Courts must be vigilant about what evidence is allowed and how it is presented because wrongful convictions can have devastating consequences. Second, it highlights the critical role of jury instructions, reminding judges that clear, precise directions are essential to a fair trial. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, R.V. Hussein reinforces the ongoing need to protect constitutional rights in the criminal justice system. The Charter serves as a safeguard against abuses of power and ensures that everyone receives a fair hearing. In a broader sense, this decision reaffirms the Supreme Court's commitment to balancing the interests of justice with the rights of the accused. It sends a message to trial courts about the standards they must uphold and provides guidance on how to handle complex procedural and constitutional questions. Thanks for listening to Bench Briefs. Be sure to join us next time for another dive into a compelling Canadian legal case that shapes our understanding of the law. Until then, take care.